What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to break down a 2023 Dynasty rookie mock draft at about the midpoint of the college football season. Our Dynasty crowd, you guys are getting spoiled this week. We had trade targets on Saturday. Go check it out if you missed it. Dropping a mock draft today. A lot has changed since the last mock draft I did in about early August or so. We've had about 6 or 7 games of the college football season thus far, so we're going to have a lot of risers, a lot of fallers. So let's check in on those 2023 first-round picks that I'm sure a lot of you guys following this channel have saved up. But before we do, if you enjoy, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and comment down below who you think the biggest riser of the college football season has been in the 2023 NFL draft. So before we get into it, let's hit the intro. All right, let's get into the first pick of the Dynasty rookie draft for 2023. The guy that's been the first pick of this draft class ever since he set foot on the field for the Texas Longhorns as a true freshman. Bijan Robinson, running back for the Texas Longhorns. Prototype size, 6 foot, 222 pounds, according to the Texas website. He's the engine of this Texas Longhorns offense. I've watched every game this year because I am a Texas fan. This kid is special. I'm telling you right now, he's the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. He has 2 elite traits to go along with everything that he brings to the table as a player, because number one, he's exceptional at everything. He's pretty much good in every facet of being a running back, but he is a weapon out of the backfield. He is a very, very phenomenal receiver. He made a catch this past week against Iowa State that caused RG3 on the broadcast to say there's not a lot of NFL running backs who can make that catch, let alone college football running backs. So we're talking about a guy that is a true 3-down back. The other elite trait that he has is his ability to make people miss. His elusiveness is off the charts. He led all college running backs so far this season in tackles avoided, with 56 of them on carries and 7 on receptions, for a grand total of 63, which is college football leading, like I said, averaging 111.42 rush yards per game, 10% target share on the season right now, which is pretty solid considering he's splitting that third down role with Roschon Johnson and a couple other running backs that are pretty good in that backfield. 11 touchdowns in 7 games so far, and a 90.7 PFF grade, which ranks second among all NCAA running backs. So we're talking about a truly special running back prospect with Bijan Robinson. Hopefully some of you guys have some dead last dynasty teams, because you are going to get the gift of a lifetime with Bijan Robinson, the best gift at running back we've had since Saquon Barkley in 2018. Unfortunately for me, a couple of my tanking dynasty teams aren't tanking quite hard enough, and I might miss out on this dude. So I'm very, very sad about that. If I don't get any Bijan Robinson shares, I'm going to be really, really upset. But let's get into the 102. And again, we're doing this from a superflex mindset because I only play in superflex dynasty leagues. So apologies to those of you guys that play in 1 quarterback leagues. But the 102 is Bryce Young for me, quarterback from Alabama. He's currently my quarterback 1 in the class. Size will be the biggest question mark for Bryce Young throughout now until the end of the draft process. He looks like a small quarterback. He is a small quarterback. He's 6 foot, 194 pounds, according to Alabama's website. If he can crack 200 pounds, I don't think his size is going to be a question mark, but we did still hear weight concerns about a guy like Kyler Murray coming out, even though Kyler Murray was a lot more well-built than what Bryce Young brings to the table. He might be a transcendent prospect when it comes to seeing the field, though, and going through his progressions. When you watch Alabama's offense, you watch Bryce Young operate, he's so quick at making decisions. He's so good going through his progressions. He can give you a little bit of, points on the ground as well. 150 rushing yards so far this season and 3 touchdowns in just 5.5 games because he left the Arkansas game early. So I have no doubt in my mind this is going to be a locked and loaded top 10 pick at quarterback, potentially the first overall pick, second, third overall pick. As a true junior, he was the 2021 Heisman winner, 81.3% adjusted completion percentage right now, which is 5th in the entire country, 16-3 touchdown to interception ratio, 92.8 PFF grade, which is first in college football among quarterbacks. So number 3, 103 is CJ Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State. No doubt in my mind that CJ Stroud will also be a top 10 pick, just like Bryce Young. He goes to a big school. The real question is fantasy upside, right? He's only got 7 rushing yards on the entire season. Yes, 7 rushing yards. He is big time throw percentage, also pretty pedestrian right now, 5%, 5.8% for reference. We're talking guys like Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett had numbers like that last year. So we're not talking about a guy with the dual threat, huge arm, extremely tantalizing type of prospect. We're talking about a guy who's a smart quarterback, who's productive. I have him at 103 right now because I think guaranteed he's going to be a top 5 pick, top 10 type of pick. He's a young quarterback. He's going to have high draft capital. I'll have no qualms when it comes to rookie drafts if people want to take this guy 103, 104, 102 even potentially, because he's going to be a very, very safe prospect. But we're talking about a guy that could slide to the mid-first round of rookie drafts because some of these running backs that I'm about to talk about just present higher ceilings. But CJ Stroud right now, the Heisman favorite, 10.9 yards per attempt, which is first in the NCAA right now, 24-3 touchdown interception ratio. The only question, like I said, is the fantasy upside, because he doesn't run the ball very much. He doesn't have a huge rocket arm, but he's going to have the high draft capital. He is a talented quarterback prospect nonetheless. So my 104 is a running back that I probably have higher than anybody else that you'll see in the fantasy industry, in Sean Tucker, running back from Syracuse. I don't think that Jahmyr Gibbs should be ranked ahead of him as of right now. Bell cow running back with Sean Tucker, with great feet, great elusiveness, elite college target share, as you guys can see on the screen, 19.75% college target share. We're talking about a number that is better than what Rachaad White had coming out of college last year. And Rachaad White was one of the best college target shares we've seen from a running back in recent years. Nick Chubb level track speed as well. Sean Tucker ran a 10.700 meter dash in high school at his size. So that we're talking about a guy that is a true workhorse caliber running back with a receiving skill set with elite speed. The way that I look at Sean Tucker basically is we're talking about a guy with Javonte Williams type of traits, but he has a sixth gear when it comes to his top end speed, because Javonte Williams, the only problem for him coming out of North Carolina was that he didn't have this elite caliber speed. He ran like a 4.6 at his pro day. I don't think we're talking about that with Sean Tucker. I think we're talking about a guy that can run high 4.3s, low 4.4s at 5'10", 210 pounds. He's very well built, has a receiving skill set, 140 scrimmage yards per game so far for Syracuse. He's only 20 years old too. He's turning 21 next week, which means he'll be a 21-year-old rookie running back in his rookie season. So just an awesome prospect. Let's get into the 105, which is Jahmyr Gibbs, who's been a bit on the rise since I did my last mock draft. I still have one major question about Jahmyr Gibbs, though. It's number one, that he is 5'11", 200 pounds. That's what he's listed at on the Alabama website. If somebody told me he was 195, I probably would believe them as well. And that's suboptimal size for the running back position. And I think it's not a coincidence that he has never been a workhorse running back in his college career. He's currently averaging 16.4 touches per game, which is a career high right now for Alabama. But his previous career high was last year when he played for Georgia Tech with 14.8 touches per game. So it's not just that he plays for Alabama and they have Jace McClellan and some of these other running backs that are spelling him. It's that it doesn't look like any coaching staff is willing to give this guy a workhorse role. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of DeAndre Swift coming out a couple of years ago. And I think in general, this 2020 running back class kind of resembles this year's running back class as a general philosophy, because we have the all-around superstar like Jonathan Taylor with Bijan Robinson. We have the complete stud all-around three down back who's a great athlete with Sean Tucker. We have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the Devi darling like DeAndre Swift. We have Zach Evans, who's the 5-star recruit like Cam Akers with some question marks. We have Blake Corum, who's the draft eligible breakout season like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was that year. So with Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's a great prospect. The only question I have for him is how big is he, right? He's got a ton of breakaway ability right now, 13.19% target share on the season, 7.2 yards per carry, fifth in the NCAA right now. The only question, like I said, is he a future bell cow? Is he going to be more of the 15 to 18 type of touch at the next level? Are we hoping for an Austin Eckler type of workload? Or are we going to get more than that if he weighs in at 205 or 208 or something at the NFL Combine? But he definitely has great ability, great receiving ability, great traits, great speed, all that kind of stuff. So let's move on to the 106, and that is Jordan Addison, who is my wide receiver 1 in the class right now. He goes to USC. JSN of Ohio State has been a little bit banged up, but he'd probably be the only one in this class at wide receiver who could overtake Jordan Addison for me, depending on what happens the rest of the year. We had an electric sophomore year out of Jordan Addison, right? All I could see when I watched Kenny Pickett's film last year was who the hell is number 3 and why is he so good? Because Jordan Addison went 100 for 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns en route to his Biletnikoff award-winning season last year. This dude is awesome. He transfers to USC with Caleb Williams. He's having a solid season right now. I think he's going to continue to get better as the season goes along. USC is going to be competitive for the rest of the year. Potentially we'll get some very good matchups against some high-profile teams in the college football playoffs. He's a slender wide receiver, but as long as he can crack 175 to 180 pounds, I'm not really concerned. I think we're talking about like Garrett Wilson 2.0 as far as what his skill set is concerned. Like I said, sophomore Biletnikoff award winner, 22% target share, 23 touchdowns he's scored since 2021, which is first in the NCAA. 82.5 receiving grade so far this year, and he had an 87.6 receiving grade in 2021. So he's been a very productive receiver the last 2 years. Moving on to the 107, which I kind of teased already. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. JSN suffered a hamstring injury in week 1 of the college football season against Notre Dame. He re-aggravated again in week 3 against Toledo, and he hasn't played since. So he's been kind of out of sight, out of mind right now. We can't take away from the sophomore stud who outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who both, by the way, look like studs in the NFL. Going 95 for 1595 and 9 touchdowns as a sophomore is extremely impressive. So we can't take that away from JSN, but until he's back on the field, he's got to suffer a little bit in the rankings, and it looks like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka are going to be very good target competition for him yet again this year. So JSN definitely could rise higher than this, could rise all the way up to like the 103, 104 type of area if he plays well the rest of the season, but he's been injured all year. 22.7% sophomore target share was definitely impressive with those guys on the field, led the team in targets, routes, yards, receptions, touchdowns, everything last year. 90.2 PFF grade in 2021 as well, which was 6th in the country. So JSN still a promising prospect, but he's got to get healthy right now. So 108, moving on to Blake Corum, who's had a phenomenal season so far for Michigan. He's been electric running the ball this year. He's kind of been like the Kenneth Walker of 2022, because Kenneth Walker kind of vaulted himself up into the top running back conversation with a great season last year, and very little pass game usage, similar to what we saw from Kenneth Walker, because the team in Michigan is using Donovan Edwards in that role, who's been outstanding, and he'll be in next year's class. So Blake Corum not getting the receiving production, but he's got good size. He's been very productive. Michigan's basically just running the ball down everybody's throat right now, and big school running backs will always get elevated, right? Any running back that goes to a big school is always going to catch the eye of NFL scouts. We think of guys like Bijan Robinson last year and Trey Sermon in recent years. Even though those guys weren't the greatest prospects in the world, because they went to Alabama and Ohio State respectively, they get a lot of looks, and the same will go for Blake Corum going to Michigan. 901 rushing yards right now, which is 2nd in the country, only to Illinois' Chase Brown. PFF's number 1 graded running back in the country, just ahead of Bijan Robinson at 92.6. 15 runs of 15 plus yards right now, which is also 2nd in the country. So we're talking about a guy with breakaway speed, been very, very productive. Blake Corum definitely on the rise so far this year. Number 9, 109 is Zach Evans. And I kind of comped him already earlier in the video to Cam Akers of this class, because they're pretty similar, both because they're very elusive running backs who are 5-star recruits. Didn't really work out for Zach Evans at TCU, so he transfers to Ole Miss this year, and he's starting to pick things up. He just had a career game this past week against Auburn with 159 total yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns, including 1 through the air. So he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the high school pedigree. He just needs to continue producing for the Ole Miss Rebels. Like I said, TCU transfer this past year, 95 scrimmage yards per game, kind of in a running back by committee right now with only like 15 touches per game. But he's a former 5-star recruit, like I said, 5'11", 212 pounds, not a lot of tread on the tires. I think once we get to like the combine and stuff, he's really, really going to show what he's worth. So Zach Evans, definitely a guy that you need to keep in mind. 110, we have Michael Mayer, who's a tight end. And unless you're in a tight end premium league, this is probably where he's going to end up going. If you're in tight end premium, I wouldn't blame people for taking him as high as like 106, 107 type of area. I think he's going to be one of the more undervalued prospects in this class, because this dude's having one hell of a season. 56 targets in 6 games. And just for reference, that's a 33% target share at tight end, which is an absolutely ludicrous number for that position. 36 catches, 411 yards, 5 touchdowns in just 6 games, because Notre Dame has already had their bye. I'm not really exaggerating when I say this dude looks like a young Travis Kelce. Looks like a spitting image, in fact, of a young Travis Kelce. We've known this dude's been special since his freshman season when we were talking about Cole Kmet. We used Michael Mayer as an excuse why Cole Kmet didn't produce 2 years ago. We're talking 3 years now of college production. He's going to be a junior, early declare. He is going to be a first-round NFL draft pick, in my opinion, so we know that the draft capital will be there. He's a clear-cut tight end 1 in 2023. He is an 88.0 PFF receiving grade, which is 3rd in the country, 56 targets, which is 1st among tight ends, higher pick, like I said, in tight end premium. So Michael Mayer, an awesome prospect in the 2023 class. Now we move on to the 111, who is probably the biggest riser in college football right now. And I'd imagine if you guys already made that comment, you're probably saying this guy's name. Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee, a brand new addition to the first round of the mock draft here. It seems that the battle for quarterback 3 behind the obvious Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, front runner might be Hendon Hooker. And Will Levis is playing solid for Kentucky, so he's definitely still in the race. But Hendon Hooker is a true dual threat type of quarterback. He's able to run. He's been passing at a high level. He just hung 52 points on Alabama, right? Alabama has not allowed over 50 points since 1907. So the fact that Hendon Hooker is putting that type of numbers up against that caliber of a team, they just upset the number 3 team in the country, and he's 2nd in Heisman voting right now. So the issue with Hendon Hooker. That would all be well and good if we're talking about a 22-year-old prospect. This guy's older than I am, right? He's going to be 25 years old in January this year, 25 and a half by the time he takes his first NFL snap. So we're talking about extremely mature prospect to put it, kindly. And here's the thing. NFL teams aren't Dynasty Twitter, right? Dynasty Twitter is going to write this guy off because he's 25 years old, or he's almost 25 years old. And if it were up to us, we wouldn't draft this guy because we're rock hard for age-adjusted production. But Hendon Hooker's playing great, and that's really all NFL teams care about. Plays for an SEC school. He's beating high-caliber opponents, and he'll be at the Senior Bowl because he's a redshirt senior. He'll probably interview very well because he's more mature than all these other prospects. He's older than all of them. Don't be surprised if this dude's a first-rounder. And I'm already seeing him being mocked in the first round. And he's going to be worthy of a first-round Dynasty rookie pick, because if he gets first-round draft capital, that's really the biggest input we need at quarterback in Dynasty rookie drafts in Superflex leagues. So Hendon Hooker, definitely a guy that can run, can throw. You guys can see he's the Heisman runner-up right now in odds behind C.J. Stroud. 10.6 yards per attempt, which is second, again, only to C.J. Stroud. 15-1 touchdown interception ratio. 58 rushing yards per game and 3 rushing touchdowns on the season. So this is a dude that we definitely need to pay attention to for the rest of the college football season. Now, finally, to close things out, there's a number of guys I could have gone with. I could have gone with Will Levis, who I kind of mentioned already for Kentucky, the quarterback. Could have gone with Josh Downs, wide receiver from UNC. But I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston, who is the wide receiver from TCU. And this dude's back from the dead, right? Because he looked terrible the first 4 games of the season. Weeks 1 to 4, he only had 114 yards on the entire season, 386 yards the last 2 games. He had over 200 yards 2 weeks ago, had 180 this past week, 31 targets in those games, PFF receiving grades of 90.0 and 89.0, despite ranking in the 50s and 60s for the first 4 games of the season. So if he can continue this, the wide receiver 3 crown behind Jordan Addison and Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and potentially even more than that if he continues this strong play, is in the range of outcomes for Quentin Johnston. He's 6'4", 200 pounds, got a good build to him. He had a slow start so far this year, but like I said, 2 180-plus receiving yard games against high-level competition, 90.9 and 89.7 grades the past 2 weeks, 26.8% target share on the season. Definitely a big-time riser in the recent weeks. So definitely, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, comment any of your thoughts down below as well. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want more Dynasty content, more rookie content, our Dynasty Rankings Manifesto is available over on Patreon, patreon.com/Fantasy Stock Exchange. I'll also be posting this mock draft over there as well. So if you want to, scroll through, see the show sheet, see all the stats and all that kind of stuff, that will be available to you over there. And the link is down below in the pinned comment if that interests you in any way. So peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?